your character was like betraying his own people. So we wanted to know what that was like.
Well, there's a history of characters like Stephen in movies. They're usually called collaborators, you know, when they were in war movies or whatever. I remember when Quentin called me and said he had written this Western and he had this role for me, Stephen, and call me back when you read it, let me know what you think. So I'm sitting there reading it and I keep going, well, what the hell, Stephen? You know, and I'm watching Django do all this stuff and I'm all disappointed. It's like, wow, 15 years ago, I'd be this guy. So I finally get to Stephen and it's like, whoa. Now, I'm gonna tell you a secret about this. The Stephen that you see in this movie is 10 times nicer than the Stephen that's on the floor of this movie. So imagine that. He's a lot nastier than the guy you see. But after I read it, I understood that, okay, it's very necessary for this film to have a character like this. And I have no fear of doing roles where my character is not liked. There are a lot of actors that always try and find ways to do stuff that make the audience like them. I don't particularly care about that. I want to service a story and I want the character to be as honest and true as he can be to what that particular story is. So when I attacked Stephen, or even when I called Quentin back, I'm like, so you really want me to be the most hated Negro in cinematic history? And he's like, yeah. Okay, I'm down with that. Let's get at it. And I started working on his look. I started working on his physical characteristics and all these other things. And my makeup artist came up with a great design for what my face was. And I started all this physicality and this other stuff. And the attitude, just kind of easy to step into. To look at people and understand that Stephen was the king of whatever that acreage of Candyland was. You know, Stephen's the freest slave in the history of slavedom, you know, in terms of what goes on there. He writes the checks, he tells everybody what to do. Even when Calvin Candy is there, he's the power behind the throne. I mean, I used to look at him and call him the Dick Cheney of Candyland. So he was the guy that made everything happen. So he believed in slavery. Slavery had been going on for 100 and 200 years or so before, you know, he was there, and he, for all intents and purposes, thought slavery was going for another 200 years. So why not get in line with what my program was and kind of have the easiest time I can while it's happening? So I had a great time doing it. It was wonderful being in New Orleans shooting. The atmosphere was perfect. We were on a plantation. On a real plantation that, you know, still had cane and everything else on it. So it was a great and wholesome atmosphere to shoot in. So I hope I did a good job for you and you enjoyed it. And you hated me as much as you should have.